Good morning, everyone. I'm Alden.
And I'm Lulu. And
welcome back to the Seahawk Broadcast. It's another great week here at South Lakes High, and we've got a packed show for you today.
That's right. From small businesses shout-outs and tasty treats to learning about local board elections and even a cooking lesson with one of our favorite teachers, we've got it all covered.
So grab your coffee, grab your breakfast sandwich from the cafeteria, or better yet, an extra eat.
Because it's time to dive in. Let's kick things off with a look at some local flavor in our community.
I'm here in Reston Town Center, the food and urban heart of the city of Reston and its surrounding areas. Among the over 90 and growing businesses in the DC-inspired pedestrian hub, I'm excited to take you to two of my favorite locally owned food spots to catch and grab. Reston Town Center is by far the most popular spot in the area for students to grab a treat or sit down for dinner, and its variety and diversity of cuisines is constantly evolving as new restaurants continue to emerge. It's lunchtime, so I'm paying a visit to Cook Dog Cafe. Having opened just a year and a half ago, its bright atmosphere and vast menu have customers coming back for more. Dining with my dad, we ordered the popular Dickie Jones sub, which combined savory chicken with creamy avocado and cheese, the sweet and spicy beast pizza, which was packed with flavor, and the perfectly balanced, crispy sweet potato tots on the side. Along with the endless array of tasty bites, Cook Dog tells a much bigger story than just its menu. Co-founder and owner Noelle Kukler told us more about the restaurant's roots.
I've been in the restaurant business since I started dating my husband in 2009. The name is my husband's nickname. 32 years ago, his high school buddies named him the Cook Dog based off of our last name, Kukler. So essentially, he's been in the restaurant business for 36 years now. And so it's just kind of our way of telling our story over those years and just kind of telling like our timeline in the restaurant world. But we opened up this location in, I guess, 2024 in July. But we've been working for the last 5.5 years kind of developing this whole concept.
Noelle and Chef Paul Kukler have poured their hearts out into this restaurant, and it is evident through the comforting food they serve, as well as regular customers and happy employees who have turned Cook Dog into a community. Server Elizabeth Redwine Capel, who helped the Kuplers open the business, elaborated on her favorite part of working at the cafe.
I think the pride that Chef and Noelle place into the restaurant to bring about new dishes and food that is incredibly fresh.
After all those savory bites, I think it's time for a sweet treat. We're venturing a half-mile away to Ice Cream Jubilee, my favorite Asian-owned ice cream shop. Also having opened in the summer of 2024, Ice Cream Jubilee's Reston location, one of 7 locations in the DMV, welcomes Restonians to try unique and exciting flavors inspired by Asian cultures. I ordered the mango sticky rice, which was refreshing and tasted exactly like the classic Thai dessert. My dad ordered the mint chocolate brownie, which combined classic, rich chocolate ice cream with chewy and decadent brownie chunks to create the perfect scoop. Taking pride in the store's wholesome ingredients and careful process, manager Art explained what makes the shop so special.
For me, all ice cream is good. The difference between us and other ice cream are the way we make our ice cream. It's almost like the traditional way of making ice cream, which is homemade. It's all natural. We have a lot of Asian influence flavors. The idea of bringing flavors out of the world to the American market.
Art also elaborated on the shop's commitment to spreading smiles to the community.
It's all about not just serving ice cream, good or really good ice cream, but also making the good experience for everyone that comes in our doors.
From the legendary lunch at Cook Dog Cafe to the decadent ice cream made with love at Ice Cream Jubilee, these small businesses in Reston Town Center are absolutely worth a visit. This is Ava Grace Satterfield reporting live from Reston, Virginia. Back to you, anchors. Now I'm starving. Those small businesses really bring something special to our town.
Totally. Plus, supporting local means more than just good food. It's about building community, one sweet or sandwich at a time.
Speaking of community, the mock trial team has been crushing it lately, and we've got the inside scoop.
Let's hand it over to our reporters for this week's Spill the Tea.
first regional mock trial competition approaches, students at South Lakes are preparing for months of hard work to be put to the test. We went behind the scenes to see how students are getting ready for the courtroom.
This marks the inaugural year of the South Lakes High School Mock Trial Team, a program created in response to overwhelming student interest and a shared passion for law, debate, and courtroom advocacy. Mock trial simulates a real courtroom experience where students take on the roles of attorneys and witnesses. Team members must analyze case materials, prepare direct and cross-examinations, and present arguments before a judge.
The mock trial team because I always had an interest in becoming an attorney, and I feel like this was an opportunity for me to explore the field more.
What do you think is the biggest benefit of being on the mock trial team?
So the biggest benefit for me, at least, is improving my public speaking skills and improving my professionalism.
Preparation involves weeks of practice, refining arguments, and building confidence under pressure. Team members say the experience strengthens critical thinking, public speaking, and teamwork skills.
I kind of am really scared about speaking in front of an audience, and it really helps with my confidence and being able to think quick on my feet. The biggest benefit is, of course, the friendships you make, but also the skills you learn. I think after this whole entire process of training and prepping for our competition, I have gained so many skills with public speaking, with communication, and with organization.
The team will compete on February 14th at Riverside High School. As they finalize their preparations, members say that they are prepared to represent their school with professionalism and determination. This has been Lulu and Alden from South Lakes High School.
Wow, who knew courtroom drama could be so intense and educational?
Right? I'll never look at a gavel the same way again.
Same here, but don't go anywhere because next up we're going to get to know our Reston Association a little better.
That's right. Coming up next, we take a closer look at the upcoming board elections and what they could mean for the Reston community.
Take it away!
Reston has more than 60,000 residents, dozens of parks, pools, and miles of trails, all managed by the Reston Association. And every year, members get to choose who sits at the table making decisions about all of it. But board elections often fly under the radar, and low turnout means a smaller slice of the community ends up having an outsized voice. Today, we spoke with Paul Thomas, a former board member and current member of the election committee, about what's at stake and how residents can get more involved.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm great, thank you. So my first question for you is, what is Reston Association's purpose and role in the Reston community?
Reston Association owns and maintains acres of paths, about 50-something miles of paths, a lot of parkland, 15 pools, tennis courts, a lot of the amenities that really make Reston unique.
Mm-hmm. And what is the purpose of this upcoming election in Reston Association?
The Reston Association Board of Directors is in charge of governance for the association, and there are 9 directors, and every year 3 of them are up for election. So we have 3 directors that need to be elected, and we are right in the voting season now.
And what do you think are some key facts that you think voters should know before they cast their ballots?
Yeah, people need to understand each of the directors and sort of their style, how they would work with others, and their understanding of the role of Reston in the community. Like where Reston Association has its role, the county has its role, the Board of Supervisors has the things that it does. Sort of understanding all of that is really important.
Mm-hmm. And what is one thing you wish that more people knew about Reston Association?
Well, I wish that people understood how much control Reston Association has over development that goes on in the area. And the answer is very, very little. It's really, when people want to get involved in land use discussions, that's really about the Board of Supervisors, our district county supervisor, Walter Alcorn, and other folks associated with the county.
A reminder that Reston is one of the largest planned communities in the country, and the people running it are elected by neighbors just like you. If you're a member of Reston Association and you want to get involved, whether that's voting, running for a seat, or joining a committee, you can find more information at reston.org. Candidate filing deadlines and election details are updated there throughout the season. I'm Lulu Adam, and we'll be right back. Okay, wow. I hadn't realized how big of a deal this election was.
Honestly, same. Getting to speak to board members and figure out what all the association does makes me feel more involved.
Completely agree. Now from ballads to burners, did you know one of our history teachers doubles as a chef?
That's right. Mr. Tashi is stepping out of the classroom and into the kitchen. You won't want to miss what he's cooking up on next week's Cooking with Coach.
Hi, I'm Mr. Tashi. I teach social studies and I'm assistant wrestling coach here at South Lakes. And today I'll be making pasta alla zozzona. Okay, today we're going to be making pasta alla zozzona. Inside of this we have sausage, spicy sausage, and this is guanciale. It is cured pork jowl. It's very famous in Roman cuisine. We have pecorino romano, black pepper, eggs. We have a mix of shallots and garlic here. And so this is a very famous Roman pasta dish. It's kind of derivative of carbonara, amatriciana, pasta alla gricia, cacio e pepe. And so one of the key components of this is guanciale. It's an ancient Roman type of cured pig jowl. Okay, same way you do prosciutto, kind of like a Roman bacon. So here I start off slow. I render off the fat. As you can see, it's starting at kind of a low temp. It comes out nice and crispy, and I'm going to remove it right when it's getting crispy enough. And the fat has come out of it, and you can see how much fat now is coating the pan. I'm going to then pour off some of this fat. I don't need all of it. Don't almost drop your pot like I just did. And again, that has full of flavor that you can use. So now I'm going to take some of this spicy sausage. This is where I kind of break away from some of the recipes for this traditionally. I add sausage to mine. You'll also see I'll kind of do some other different technical differences later on from how you might normally eat pasta. So I'm going to get this sausage browning, medium heat, just to kick it off. And then when that's it, I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit higher to like a medium high. Again, you want to see that caramelization on the outside. You can see some of the brown bits forming, and you can see the sausage breaking up. I like to add a little bit of spice to mine. So here are 2 Calabrian chilies that are dried. You can use chili flakes. Again, if you can see as I'm crushing this up, it literally just becomes chili flakes. I just have the whole chilies. In addition to kind of supplant some of the flavors of that sausage, I'm also adding in some full fennel seeds. You can toast these right off, again, right in there, and they'll just cloak everything perfectly. One of the key components of a lot of Roman pasta dishes is going to be pecorino as well as black pepper, so I supplemented with some black pepper there. And then I'm going to prep my alliums, which is going to be my shallot and my garlic here. So again, with my shallot, I'm just going to do a quick, small dice, nothing crazy. I'm not going to be really technical with the knife cutting there. Same thing with the garlic. I'm going to take out like 3 cloves. Now, this is kind of dependent on how much sausage you're using. I think, obviously, and how much tomato and how much pasta you're using at the end of the day. So I chose to use 3 cloves here. Just kind of, cut this up to a mince. I just usually just take my knife and go back and forth a bunch of times. But ultimately, again, I really want to reinforce some of the flavor that sausage has, right? With the oniony, the spice, the allium forward, fennel forward flavors. And so I'm going to get that toasting off. I've lowered the heat down to like a medium now. You don't want the garlic to burn. Now this is where it gets a little unorthodox. So I'm going to put my pasta in, no water. And I know it seems really weird, but I'm going to cook this pasta like the Northern Italian dish risotto. And if you know what that is, it's basically like rice that is cooked very slowly with water or stock incorporated into it. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to toast my pasta off, salt it. Okay, again, the guanciale's got fat, so I haven't added salt to this point. And here I'm going to add my tomatoes, okay? So I use some passata, which is basically just like pureed tomato, essentially. One thing that I like to do to start with is I want this to kind of like reduce down a little bit. So again, I have like a medium heat on right now, and I'm going to mix up this passata within, the sausage and the pasta. And you can see some of the pasta pieces getting a little like toasted on the outside. Now, after that reduced a little bit, I'm going to add in my stock slowly but surely. As you can see, I'm not covering the pasta here. And part of the reason of this is I want it to, come up and then reduce down, and then I'll add more in. And as you can see here, I added a little bit more stock and water in between. I put some water in the pot. Right into that same jar to add back into this. I add some salt. And then I add my guanciale back in. Now, again, you want to add your guanciale towards the end. You don't want too much of that fat to kind of like come out of it again. But ultimately, a little bit of fat should leak out to make that sauce really silky, okay? And now this is where the carbonara side of this is going to come in, okay? So again, we've hit the pasta alla matriciana side with the tomato and the guanciale. Now we are going to get our pasta, finished with some egg and pecorino romano. And so this egg and pecorino romano mixture with some black pepper, again, reinforcing those Roman flavors above everything. And we're just going to mix here. Now this should come out to like a pretty gritty paste. And you're probably wondering, Mr. Tashi, that's crazy, you're adding in like raw egg to this. Well, the thing is, it's not quite going to be raw. So what's going to happen is the pasta is going to cook it. So a really important step here is I took this off the heat. If I add the cheese in and the egg at this point, the eggs could scramble and the cheese could just stick to the bottom. Now you want this to essentially become like a silky, just melted mixture. The egg yolks are going to cook in like a second being in this. And now I'm going to take this from being like more of a red sauce and adding in this level of egg. It's going to lighten up the color a little bit more pink or orange hues here. And I'm just going to bring it right to a bowl. Okay, so I use a nice flat bowl. I always like to heat my bowl up again. If you have hot food, you need a hot plate or a hot bowl. So my bowl, I just pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds, get it nice and warm, added my pasta here. I make sure to get some of the sauce. If there's any bit that ends up on the outside, I'll always wipe that off. I finish with a little bit of reinforced Roman flavors, that pecorino romano, okay? And then a little bit more black pepper, just again, just a plant. And that's it.
Now that's a recipe I'll be stealing.
Oh yes, I'm gonna need this whole cookbook.
We'll have to ask him about that. But for now, that's wraps for this week's episode of the Seahawk Broadcast.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube for behind-the-scene looks and updates.
Until next time,
Go Seahawks!